W5FC. GeekNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m. W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations, priority, or emergency traffic enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomy Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A, if we have time. And 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We're going to start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening.
Kilo India 5, uniform Juliet Dustin, Dallas, low power.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo, Golf 5, uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo. Jacob, Farmers Branch, low power.
Okay, we have KI5UUJ Dustin, W5GUS Gus, and KG5 UFR Jacob. We'll now go to general check-ins. Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas. Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is
5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa, Surf City.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, J, West. This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, as Mesquite.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima, Lima, Huey, Richardson.
That's a healthy batch. Have N5BB, Billy, NT5TM, Tony, KE5I6, Tom, KF5ZBL, Bill, and James, you have somebody only got WVL. Would you please come back with your prefix?
Yes, KG5, WVL, James.
KG5WVL, thank you, James. And KI5GRH, Melissa, KG5BZJ, KI5AH, Robert, KF5JHA, Chaz, and KF5PLL, Huey. Okay, let's take Echolink check-ins now. All right, hearing none. Let's go for any other check-ins from of any type. Please come now.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Kilo 5. Kilo Golf 5, Kilo Echo Mike, Ishmael in Dallas.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo India 5, Alpha Oscar Kilo, AI5, AOK, Robert, Indy Hudson.
Okay, we have KG5 APL Patrick and then KG5 KEM. I missed the name. Would you please come back with it?
KG5 KEM Ishmael, Dallas, Texas.
Okay, KG5K. Welcome to the net. KB9 SOK Sean and AI5 AOK Robert. All right, we'll come back for more check-ins in a bit. Right now, let's have general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now. Station calling, you are almost unreadable. I couldn't make you out. Could you try again?
KF5PLL.
Okay, KF5PLL. You have announcements for tonight?
Hello, Skynet. There will be no Cedar Hill Star Bolt Star Party tonight. Please don't count on a star party December 24th. That's still open. Look forward to star parties in the month of January 2023. Back to net, KF5PLL.
Thank you, Huey. Any other announcements? Okay, the AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. To find the net groups AMSAT, also a live audio link is available on their website, amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. NYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Net, no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. So the DARC hosts mini nets during the week. On Mondays, the first week is Ham Fixin's Net, second week MCOM 101, third week another Ham Fixin's Net, fourth week Geek Net, fifth week Surprise Net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-our participation is encouraged. Now on Tuesdays, AMSAT East 8 p.m., Q&As, info, and news for amateur satellites. Fridays, CERT City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KF5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. And Saturdays, TechNet at 7 to 8 p.m., and of course, Skynet. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, that's MODA. Then every day, the ARR Net National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. But wait, there's another net after this at 10:30 every Saturday, about 10:30, right after Skynet. We have what we call the Afterglow movie net. And I'd like to call on time Tom KE5ICX to read the synopsis of tonight's movie.
Why, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX, and yes, my name is Tom, and here is tonight's movie synopsis. Ebenezer Scrooge looked at the battle plan. The Germans had advanced their line, pushing into the Ardennes for it. This was unacceptable. He rang up Ike and parlayed his plan. He was rejected. He turned to his problem at hand, getting all the work done in his other job, operating his accounting firm, Scrooge, Scrooge, and more Scrooge. His partner, Bob Cratchit, kept working on his accounting work and also updated the war board with the Third Army's updated position. It was hectic work. Scrooge pulled out 2 pearl-handled revolvers and loaded them. His plans were unclear, but a call from the president of Christmas Future put him on edge. Join us for the 3rd Christmas movie this month, A Christmas Carol, the one from 1984, a TV movie with George C. Scott, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to Net Control.
Thank you, Tom, for that very accurate synopsis of our movie. Okay, next, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Chaz, KF5JHA, do you have anything to tell us?
Why, thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I don't remember the revolvers in the movie, Tom. Oh, well, okay. There is no Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas general meeting in December due to the holidays. And the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 27th, 2023. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Dr. Erika Ellingson from the University of Arizona, and her talk will be prehistoric moon watchers. And the Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again, but as you heard from Huey, we won't have the rest of this month, but we'll start them up again in January. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the observing sessions. Now check the TASS website, texasastro.com, up-to-date information and public sessions. And that's all I have. Brenda, back to you. This is KF5JHA.
Thank you, Chaz. Next, National Space Society events and activities. N5BB, Bill, could you give us some news?
Yes, Brenda. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the membership director and member at large of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. We have a new, comparably new website. So if you have our old website address, like Tom may have it on the script, I'm not looking at the script, please get rid of it. Here is the new website address, ntx.nss.org. That's NTX, like North Texas, ntx.nss.org. And that will take you to the National Space Society North Texas chapter. We also have a Facebook page. Just look for National Space Society of North Texas, and you can find our Facebook page also, or our website. Google search or other search engines work pretty good too. Our normal meetings are on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. Our meeting in December was our Christmas holiday party, which was this last Sunday. And we will have a meeting on January the 8th. That's the second Sunday afternoon in January, starting at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving at Beltline and 183. National Space Society is for people who are interested in manned or human, I should say, uses of space. This includes humans going to Earth orbit, to the moon, to the lunar space station being developed, into Mars, and also unmanned launches involving, but the human uses of space in general. The big item, the big event we have coming up in 2023 is going to be the International Space Development Conference, which is going to be in Frisco, the suburb of Dallas. This will be May 25th to 28th, 2023. This is the first part of the Memorial Day weekend. It'll be at the Embassy Suites by Hilton in Frisco. You can find out more by going to isdc2023.nss.org. That's the International Space Development Conference 2023. If you have any questions about the National Space Society or have interest in joining our North Texas chapter, there are several hams, some of who are listening right now here that are a member of our chapter. You can contact me at n5bb@byram.net or n5bb@arl.net works also. November 5 Bravo Bravo at arl.net or space@byram.net. That's all I've got, N5BB. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. All right, let's pause for more check-ins. Please go now. All right, it's time for the discussion topic of the evening, and that would be me presenting this evening because I'm net control. The title is Nuclear Fusion Breakthrough. What does it mean for space exploration? This was written, I found this on space.com, written by Leonard David. Some scientists say nuclear fusion propulsion is inevitable. But how far away is it, given recent breakthroughs? The announcement this week of fusion ignition is a major scientific advancement, one that is decades in the making. More energy was produced than the laser energy used to spark the first controlled fusion triumph. The result, replicating the fusion that powers the sun. On December 5th, the team at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory's National Ignition Facility, NIF, achieved the milestone, as noted by Kim Boodle, director of the laboratory. Crossing this threshold is a vision that has been 60 years of dedicated pursuit, a continual process of learning, building, expanding knowledge and capability, then finding ways to overcome new challenges that emerged. The nuclear fusion feat has broad implications, a few of clean, limitless energy. As for space exploration, one upshot from the landmark research is attaining the long-held dream of future rockets that are driven by fusion propulsion. But is that prospect still a pipe dream, or is it now deemed reachable? If so, how much of a future are we looking at? The fusion breakthrough is welcomed and exciting news for physicist Fatima Ibrahimi at the U.S. Department of Energy's Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory in New Jersey. She said the NIF success is extraordinary. Any data points obtained showing fusion energy science achievement is fantastic. Fusion energy gain of greater than 1 is quite an achievement, Ibrahimi said. However, engineering innovations are requisite for NIF to be commercially viable as a fusion reactor, she added. Ibrahimi is studying how to best propel humans at greater speeds out to Mars and beyond. The work involves a new concept for a rocket thruster, one that exploits the mechanism behind solar flares. The idea is to accelerate particles using magnetic reconnection, a process found throughout the universe, including the surface of the sun. It's when magnetic field lines converge, separate, and then join together again, producing loads of energy. By using the electromagnets and more magnetic fields, Abrahami envisions the ability to create, in effect, a knob-turning way to fine-tune velocity. As for the NIF victory impacting space exploration, Abrahami said for space applications, compact fusion concepts are still needed. Heavy components for space applications are not favorable, she said. Similar in thought is Paul Gilster, writer-editor of the informative Centauri Dreams website. Naturally, I celebrate the NIF's accomplishment of producing more energy than was initially put into the fusion experiment. It's a necessary precursor toward getting fusion into the game as a source of power. Gilster told Space.com, building upon the notable breakthrough is going to take time, he said. Where we go as this evolves, and this seems to be decades away, is toward actual fusion power plants here on Earth. But as to space exploration, we then have to consider how to reduce working fusion into something that can fit the size and constraints of a spacecraft. There's no doubt in Gilster's mind that fusion can be managed for space exploration purposes, but he suspects there's still more, that's still more than a few decades in the future. This work is heartening, then, but it should not diminish our research into alternatives like beamed energy as we consider missions beyond the solar system. Richard Dinnan is the founder of Pulsar Fusion in the United Kingdom. He's the author of the book The Fusion Age, Modern Nuclear Fusion Reactors. Fusion propulsion is a much simpler technology to apply than fusion for energy. If fusion is achievable, which at last the people are starting to see it is, then both fusion energy and propulsion are inevitable, Dinnan said. One gives us the ability to power our planet indefinitely, the other the ability to leave our solar system. It's a big deal, really. Exhaust speeds generated from a fusion plasma, Dinnan said, are calculated to be roughly 1,000 times that of a Hall effect thruster, electronic propulsion hardware that makes use of electric and magnetic fields to create and eject a plasma. The financial implications that go with that make fusion propulsion, in our opinion, the single most important engineering technology in the space economy, Dinnan said. Pulsar Fusion has been busy working on a direct fusion drive initiative, a steady-state fusion propulsion concept that's based on a compact fusion reactor. According to the group's website, Pulsar Fusion has proceeded to a Phase 3 task, manufacturing an initial test unit. Static tests are slated to occur next year, followed by an in-orbit demonstration of the technology in 2027. The net energy gain reported in the press is certainly a significant milestone, said Ralph McNutt, a physicist and chief scientist for space science at the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory in Laurel, Maryland. As more comes out, it will be interesting to see what the turning point was that pushed this achievement past previous unsuccessful attempts, he said. McNutt said that getting into a commercial electric power station from this recent milestone is likely to be a tough assignment. But the tortoise did eventually beat the hare. Tenacity is always a virtue when one is handling tough technical problems. With respect to space exploration, it certainly does not hurt in providing an example that great things can still be accomplished, McNutt said. All of that said, it should be still a sobering thought that despite all the work on Nerva rover, there is still no working nuclear thermal rocket engine, and the promise of nuclear electric propulsion for space travel had only a brief glimmer with SNAP 10A in April of 1965, recalled McNutt. The actual use of ICF in a functional spacecraft has been a long-held dream, McNutt said, but it is very unlikely to change for a long time to come. space travel has always been tough, that NASA has blazed a trail that many commercial entities are now following, does not mean space has gotten easier, but the new ICF results have added to the aspirational glow on the horizon of the future, McNutt added. That said, no one should be fooled into thinking that space will somehow not be tough someday. It's called rocket science with all that implies in popular culture for a reason, he concluded. All right, next segment is What's Up? Chaz, KF5JHA, go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. That was awesome. I heard this, the information about the fusion in news, actually the local news this week. So, yeah, that was great. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics. I work at the Astrophysics Labs and Geology Labs here at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we do call this segment of Skynet What's Up? Slide Master, that would be Tom. Slide number 2, please. The moon is at its third quarter phase, at least it was on December the 16th. That was yesterday. So the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. New moon happens on December 23rd. On December 24th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the moon, at a distance of 358,270 kilometers. The first quarter moon is on December the 30th. The full moon is on January the 6th. And on January the 8th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,458 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. The December Leonis Menorids meteor shower peaks on the night of December 19th and 20th with about 5 meteors per hour. The Quadrant meteor shower is one of the major meteor showers of the year. It peaks on the night of January the 3rd, 4th with up to 120 meteors per hour. More information about meteor showers can be found at the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society, AMSmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. Back on November the 30th, Mars was at its closest approach to the Earth. Mars is still really close to the Earth and still can be observed really well for another month through a telescope. But the distance between the two planets, Earth and Mars, are getting further apart every day. So take out that telescope soon and look at Mars. Slide Master, slide number 5. Last night on December 16th, Venus was about 1/4 of a degree away from the Sagittarius star cluster M22. M22 is one of the largest and brightest globular star clusters as seen on the Earth. Slide Master, slide number 6. On Christmas Eve, that will be a week from now, the next Skynet, December the 24th, there's conjunction of the Moon, Venus, and Mercury in the very low early evening southwestern sky. This all happened before Skynet, so you'll have to go out and take a look at that about 3 hours before, well, actually almost 3 hours before Skynet begins. And Slide Master, slide number 7. The day after Christmas, on December the 26th, the conjunction of the Moon and Saturn can be easily seen in the southwestern evening sky. And then just 2 days later, Slide Master, on December the 28th, the conjunction of Venus and Mercury in the low southwestern evening sky occurs. That was slide number 8. Slide number 9. On January the 1st, the Moon will occult the planet Uranus during the day. This event will require a telescope in order to observe. At around 2:17 and 43 seconds, that's CST, Central Standard Time, Uranus will disappear behind the moon. At around 3:11:38 p.m. Central Standard Time, Uranus will reappear from behind the moon. The times will vary depending on where you're located in the Metroplex. These times were calculated for the Brookhaven campus of the Dallas College. And Master, slide number 10, please. On January the 3rd, the moon and Mars will be in conjunction in the evening sky. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. Again, there's no Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas general meeting in December due to the holidays. And so the next one will be held on January the 27th, that's 2023, at 7:30 p.m. at the University of Texas at Dallas in person, and also held on Zoom. Featured speaker is Dr. Erica Ellingson from the University of Colorado, and her topic is prehistoric moon watchers. That's going to be interesting if you ask me. For more information about that and for observing sessions, go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Now, Slide Master, slide number 12. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
W5GUS, a fill, please.
Well, Gus, I love your call sign because then I know who you are. Go ahead. What's your question, Phil? Gus, what's the fill you needed, Gus? There you go.
W5FILL here. Hey, Chaz, I missed the name of the meteor shower on January 3rd, 4th peak. Could you repeat that, please? W5GUS.
That's a great question. Most meteor showers are named after the constellation where they originate from. This one is called the Quadrantids, and it's from an old arcane constellation. It doesn't exist anymore. So Quadrantids meteor shower, and it's one of the best meteor showers of the year. The problem is in the northern hemisphere it's kind of cold, and most people don't go out and observe it. So, did I answer your question for you, Gus?
I certainly did. Thank you, Chaz. And I observed Mars this past week or two. It was a very beautiful red star out there to the I guess it would be the east, northeast. Very nice. It's worth dressing up and getting a little cool for. Beautiful night sky, quiet, perfect Christmas evening weather. W5GUS.
Thank you, Gus. And for those of you that don't know where Mars is located in the sky right now, after Skynet, look up. It's the red thing over your head. Okay, there you go. Slide Master, slide number 13. So as the moon wanes right now, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, at least for the moment. And until next time, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control. It's all yours, Brenda.
Thank you, Chad. Next up, space exploration and space history this week. Kelly, K5KTX, is going to present. You haven't checked in yet, but I believe you're on Echolink. Kelly, are you there?
Brenda, this is K5KTX, and I'm pretty sure that I checked in, but maybe I did. So anyway, good evening, everyone. Hopefully I can get through this without losing my voice. I've had a cold for the last week. So anyway, hopefully this last weekend you got to see NASA's Orion spacecraft splash down in the Pacific Ocean just west of Baja California at 9:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday after a record-breaking mission traveling more than 1.4 million miles on a path around the moon and returning safely to Earth, completing the Artemis 1 flight test. Splashdown is the final milestone of the Artemis 1 mission that began with the successful liftoff of NASA's Space Launch System SLS rocket on November the 16th from Launch Pad 39B at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Over the course of 25 and a half days, NASA tested Orion in the harsh environment of deep space before flying astronauts on Artemis 2. During the mission, Orion performed 2 lunar flybys coming within 80 miles of the lunar surface. At its farthest distance during the mission, Orion traveled nearly 270,000 miles from our home planet, more than 1,000 times further than where the International Space Station orbits Earth, to intentionally stress the systems before flying crew. Prior to entering the Earth's atmosphere, the crew module separated from its service module, which is the propulsive powerhouse provided by the European Space Agency. During re-entry, Orion endured temperatures about half as hot as the surface of the Sun at about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Within about 20 minutes, Orion slowed from nearly 25,000 miles per hour to about 20 miles per hour for its parachute-assisted splashdown. During the flight test, Orion stayed in space longer than any spacecraft designed for astronauts has done without docking to a space station. While in distant lunar orbit, Orion surpassed the record for distance traveled by a spacecraft designed to carry humans previously set by Apollo 13. NASA's Exploration Ground Systems program successfully removed the Artemis 1 Orion spacecraft from the USS Portland on December 14th, after the ship arrived at the U.S. Naval Base San Diego a day earlier. Engineers will conduct inspections around the spacecraft's windows before installing hard covers and deflating the 5 airbags on the crew module, uprighting the system in preparation for the final leg of Orion's journey over land. It will be loaded on a truck and transported back to the agency's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for post-flight analysis. Before its departure, teams will open Orion's hatch as part of preparations for the trip to Kennedy and remove the Biology Experiment 1 payload, which flew on board Orion. The experiment involves using plant seeds, fungi, yeast, and algae to study the effects of space radiation before sending humans to the moon and eventually to Mars. Removing the payload prior to Orion's return to Kennedy allows scientists to begin their analysis before the samples begin to degrade. Once it arrives to Kennedy, Orion will be delivered to the multi-payload processing facility, where additional payloads will be taken out, its heat shield and other elements will be removed for analysis, and remaining hazards will be offloaded. This past week in space history, beginning with December the 11th, 1972, 50 years ago, the Apollo 17 Lunar Module Challenger touched down on the lunar surface, making the last human moon landing to date. Astronauts Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt would perform 3 moonwalks over the course of their 75-hour stay on the surface. Thanks to the electric-powered Lunar Roving Vehicle, or LRV, they also traveled about 22 meters, venturing as far as 4.6 miles from the lunar module. On the descent stage of Apollo 17's lunar module, the astronauts left behind a plaque that reads, "Here man completed his first exploration of the moon, December 1972 AD. May the spirit of peace in which we came be reflected in the lives of all mankind." December the 12th, 1961, the first Oscar Phase 1 amateur satellite was launched piggyback with Discovery 36. A group of enthusiasts in California performed Project Oscar and persuaded the United States Air Force to replace ballast on the Agena upper stage with the 4.5-kilogram Oscar 1 package. The satellite was box-shaped with a single monopole antenna and battery-powered. The 140 milliwatt transmitter on board discharged its batteries after 3 weeks. 570 amateurs in 28 countries reported receiving its simple high Morse code signals on the VHF 2-meter band, 144.983 megahertz, until January the 1st, 1962. Oscar 1 re-entered the atmosphere January 31st, 1962, after 312 revolutions. The observations provided important information on radiation, the ionosphere, the spacecraft orbits, and thermal satellite design. Oscar 1 led to the creation of the Amateur Satellite Corporation, or AMSAT, in 1969. December the 13th, 1993, Space Shuttle Endeavour landed after completing the STS-61, which was the first Hubble Space Telescope repair mission. This flight was one of the most challenging and complex crewed missions ever attempted. During a record 5 back-to-back spacewalks totaling 35 hours and 28 minutes, 2 teams of astronauts successfully completed servicing Hubble. One of the primary servicing goals was to install new solar arrays to the telescope. This was accomplished by astronauts Catherine Thornton and Tom Akers during the second extravehicular activity of the mission. After 9 days, the Hubble Space Telescope was redeployed. December the 14th, 2009, the Wide-Field Infrared Explorer, or WISE, astronomy satellite launched. It was designed to conduct an all-sky survey at infrared frequencies of 3.4, 4.6, 12, and 22 microns, detecting objects times fainter than previous satellites. The primary instrument is a 40-centimeter telescope cooled to 12 Kelvin by a cryostat filled with solid hydrogen. WISE discovered thousands of minor planets and numerous star clusters. After its hydrogen coolant depleted, a mission extension called NEO-WISE was conducted to search for near-Earth objects such as comets and asteroids using its remaining capability. In August 2013, NASA announced it would reactivate the WISE telescope for a new mission called NEO-WISE. NASA extended the NEO-WISE mission until at least June of 2023. To date, the project has resulted in the detection of almost 158,000 asteroids at thermal infrared wavelengths, including around 1850 NEOs, near-Earth objects, and has discovered around 34,000 new asteroids, 333 of which are near-Earth objects. The project has detected more than 300 comets, including 34 discoveries. December 15th, 1965, Gemini 6A launched with astronauts Wally Schirra. Launched in October 1965 to make the first in-space rendezvous. Their goal was to dock with Agena target vehicle. However, the Agena did not make it to orbit. So Gemini 6 was reassigned to launch after Gemini 7, and Rendezvous A was added to their mission number to designate this alternate plan. They wouldn't be able to dock, but they could practice rendezvous and close maneuvering. After a hair-raising launch abort on December the 12th, Schirra and Stafford finally launched on December 15th. They successfully rendezvoused with Gemini 7, and the craft circled each other for 5 hours and 19 minutes over 3.5 orbits. Gemini 6 returned to Earth the next day. This was the first successful rendezvous of 2 crewed spacecraft. On this date, December the 17th, 1903, Orville Wright successfully completed the first controlled, powered, heavier-than-air human flight in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. On December 17th, the Wright brothers awoke to freezing temperatures and a 27-mile-per-hour wind. The first flight only lasted 12 seconds and only covered 120 feet over the ground. Orville and Wilbur flew the flyer 3 more times that day, alternating turns as pilots. The flyer was damaged by a gust of wind as it was being returned to its takeoff point late in the day. However, it was eventually rebuilt and is now on display at the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. We had a couple or a few astronaut birthdays to celebrate this past week, starting with December the 11th, 1975, was Francisco Rubio, who is currently on Expedition 67 and 68 on the International Space Station. He launched on September the 21st, and if you've been paying attention to the news, you may know that there was a major leak on the Soyuz spacecraft, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to be able to fix that so that those 3 astronauts can return home sometime in March. December the 12th, 1951, Stephen Hawley, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-41D, 61C, 30, 82, and 93. December the 12th, 1964, Kenneth Ham, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-124 and 132. December 14th, 1936, Robert Parker, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-9 and 35. And finally, December 14th, 1960, is Katie Coleman, who is call sign KC5ZTH, and she was on Space Shuttle missions STS-73, 93, and Expeditions 26 and 27. And that's all I've got tonight. This is K5KTS. Back to you, Brenda.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Do we have any more check-ins now?
Romeo Alpha India.
Golf 5, Zulu, Mike Golf.
Going to speak slowly, and maybe I can pick you up. Go ahead. Okay, apparently I double with somebody. The first station was N5, and I missed the rest of it. Would you please come back with that?
Kilo, India 5, Delta,
I'm sorry, I didn't get anything except November 5. Could you come back once again, try very slowly?
I'll try one more time, then I'll go down. Kilo, India 5, Delta, Juliet, Juliet.
I'm getting Kilo, India, Delta, Juliet. Didn't get the rest or get the name.
USL 73, clear.
Okay, sorry about that. Then KC5RAI Charles. Anybody else want to check in?
Golf 5, Zulu, Mike Golf. Oh, and
Zulu Mike Golf, Joe. Thanks for checking in. Okay, moving on. Next up, we have Chaz again, KF5JHA, with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Slide Master, slide number 14. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Thus are about 52 easily visible constellations seen from North Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually a twofer, Aries and Triangulum, the triangle. Now, in the mythology, Aries represents the ram, which was the source of the Golden Fleece. The Golden Fleece was central to the story of Jason and the Argonauts. You can look up the rest of the story later on. Slide Master, slide number 15. I know this is the only reason why those of you that are out there are still listening are the jokes of the week. I do have a bonus for you tonight. All right, but to begin with, usually the jokes are related to the constellation, so here we go. I couldn't figure out why a male sheep is called a ram. And then it hit me. Come on, that was funny. Why did the ram run off the cliff? He didn't see the U-E-W-E turn. You see, that's the female. Okay, never mind. What do you call it when a shepherd can't find his ram? That would be memory loss. You see, RAM in a computer is, okay, never mind. If I have to explain them, okay. A triangle says to a circle, you're pointless. What kind of triangle is a tortilla chip? An isosceles triangle. Oh, come on, that's good too, isn't it? And if you build a triangle with sticks, what would it be? Trigonometry? Yeah, I guess so. Oh, Slide Master, slide number 16. This is a bonus. Do holiday jokes. Here we go. How is the snow globe feeling this time of the year? A little shaken. There you go. JJ got it. He's over on the Echo Link. Very good. What did the snowman order at Wendy's? Now, come on, JJ. This isn't easy. What did the snowman order at Wendy's? Yes, a Frosty. Very good. Okay. What did the icy road say to the truck? What did the icy road say to this truck? Do you want to go for a spin? That's close, JJ. There you go. What food do you get when you cross Frosty the Snowman with a bear? Think about this hard. A burger. Okay, that might have been a stretch. And final one in this segment. What did the big furry hat say to the warm woolly scarf? Hang around here while I go on ahead.
KO5JHA. Chaz, are you still there?
Oh, I'm sorry. My radio changed frequencies. Okay, here we go. Slide master, slide number 17. Thank you, Brenda. The origin of the gamma Aries appears to have been lost in antiquity. Richard Allen notes that the possible connection between the Hebrew word misharathan means ministers, but acknowledges that this connection may have been erroneous to gamma Aries. In his book Star Lore, Alcott, his book Star Lore Myths, Legends, and Facts, notes that Misharathan translated into two attendants, which is a reference to both Beta and Gamma being the two attending stars of Hamel, the brightest star in Aries. It's a binary star and one of the earliest examples to be discovered, being found to be a double star by Robert Hooke in 1664 while he was tracking a comet passing through Aries. The two stars are very close together, separated by only 7 arc seconds, but they can be split by a small telescope. Components A and B are almost equal magnitudes, 4.52 and 4.58. Slide master, slide number 18. NGC 772 is a spiral galaxy and is listed as being about 98 million light years away. Dave Hutchinson writes in his article in the Spectrum as being able to spot NGC 772 with a 4.5-inch reflecting telescope from a dark sky site. The Night Sky Observer's Guide, George Keppel and Glenn Sands wrote that NGC 772 is the brightest galaxy in Aries, with a magnitude of 10.3, which is not that bright, and that is an 8 and 10-inch telescope. It shows a small but bright core surrounded by a faint, very faint, diffuse halo. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 19, please. NGC 977, the spiral galaxy of magnitude 11.4, Dave Hutchinson has found reports of observations of this galaxy with as small a telescope as a 4-inch refractor. He did not specifically call NGC 972 a challenge object, but he did make the challenge object of trying to observe this galaxy with a small aperture instrument. It is oblique in nature when you're observing it. It's not an edge-on spiral, but it's fairly close to being an edge-on, and appears to be that way to Dave Hutchinson's as an elliptical galaxy. Slide master, slide number 20, please. On to Triangulum. Triangulum has been known since ancient times. This is known as Deltaton to ancient Greeks, which is similar to the Greek letter delta. Dissimilar in shape is also let to be associated with the Nile River, particularly the Nile. Iota Tranquillitae is a double star, and it's not easily split until you get higher power, like 81 power. You can split it, but they're very close together. At 126 power, they're easy to split. The pair consists of a brighter star and a fainter star. The fainter star looks bluish, and the brighter star looks a gold color. Another star in Triangulum is Triangulum number 15. This double star is easy to split in a 50-millimeter finder scope, so it's definitely a binocular object. At 42 power, it's another Albireo wannabe with a yellowish brighter star and a bluish-green companion. Actually, there's no real green star, so it's more of a bluish color. The color contrast is not as pronounced as Albireo itself. This is such an easy double at 42 power. You could drive a Mack truck between the two stars of Triangulum number 15. Slide master, slide number 21, please. M33 was discovered by Charles Messier himself on August 25th, 1764. Burnham's Celestial Handbook calls it one of the notable discoveries of Messier. M33 is a type SC spiral galaxy, and being a member of our local group of galaxies, it is the closest galaxy of that type to the Earth. M33 is often called the Triangulum galaxy or the Pinwheel galaxy. It shares the nickname Pinwheel galaxy with another M object called M101 in Ursa Major. Now compare M33 to M31, the Andromeda galaxy, which is similar but bigger than our Milky Way. M33 is relatively a small spiral, being about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter, compared to Andromeda's 150,000 light years in diameter, and the Milky Way is about 100,000 light years in diameter. M33 and M31 are both roughly the same distance from the Earth, at about 2.3 or 2.4 million light years away. Robert Burnham Jr. in his Celestial Handbook writes that it is interesting to note that M33 and M31 are only about 570,000 light years apart, 4 times closer to each other than they are to the Milky Way. In fact, Stephen James Mira, in his book, The Messier Objects, notes that M33 may be a satellite galaxy of M31, orbiting it as just the Moon orbits the Earth. And this is KF5JHA. And this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 22, please. There are a few more Astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellation of Aries, the Ram, and Triangulum, the Triangle. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last guess, 75 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 23, please. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Aries, the Ram, and Triangulum, the Triangle. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week on December 24th, Christmas Eve, I will be net control. Normally I would be net control on the 5th Saturday of a month, but I will be out of town on December the 31st, so Dr. Billy, KF5PDS, agreed to switch with me. As net control next week, I get to decide on a featured presentation. And my plan is not to present Was Up nor Constellation of the Week, but instead to do what is becoming an annual tradition, the Star of Bethlehem. And what is it? This will be the feature topic, and what was that star long ago? Well, we'll take a look at that. And I might even put that at the end of Skynet next week. We'll see. This is KF5JHA sending it back to our net control 73, everyone. It's all yours, Brenda.
Thank you, Chaz. That was very interesting. This is WV5OZL. Do we have any more check-ins?
Kilo India 5 Delta Juliet, so I'm making it this time.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch much of that. Would you please repeat? Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear any of it. Okay, next up is space launches for this week. I'm going to call on Tom, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. And let's see, tomorrow, overnight, December 18th, 19th, will be a launch of an Electron rocket called Virginia is for Launch Lovers. This will be launched from LC-2 Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at Wallops Island, Virginia. The Rocket Lab Electron launch vehicle will lift off with 3 satellites for Hawkeye 360, radio frequency geospatial analytics provider. This will be the first Rocket Lab mission with a new launch pad in Virginia. Overnight, December 20th, 21st, will be the launch of a Vega C, Pleiades Neo 5 and 6. This is from ZLV, that's the launch site, Kourou, French Guiana. The Ariane Space Vega C rocket designated VV-22 will launch the Pleiades Neo 5 and 6 first observation satellites for Airbus. The 5 and 6 are the third and fourth members of the 4-satellite Pleiades Neo constellation built and owned and operated by Airbus. On December 28th, the Falcon 9 launch of yet another Starlink 5-1 mission. This is from SLC-40, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The vehicle will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. This mission will be the first into Shell 5 of the Starlink constellation, targeting a polar orbit after liftoff from Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Overnight, December 28th, 29th, be another Falcon 9 rocket launch. This is the Hero C3. This will be from SLC-4 Echo at Vandenberg Space Force Base, California. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Hero C3 high-resolution imaging satellite for ImageSat International, an Israeli remote sensing company. Hero C3 was built by Israel Aerospace Industries and the Colossal Multispectral Image. Falcon 9's first stage booster will return to landing zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Next up is to be determined will be the RS-1 Flight 1 mission. This is from LP-3C, Pacific Spaceport. Try that again. Pacific Spaceport Complex, Kodiak Island, Alaska. The ABLRS-1 rocket will launch on the first orbital test flight carrying 2 CubeSats for Omnifig, a company which plans to deploy a constellation of small satellites to provide maritime communications services. Then next up we have November and December 7th. Oh, this is from, sorry, I didn't put a carriage return in, so that's from the previous thing. See if I can discombobulate this. June 2nd, Falcon 9 launch of Transporter 6. This will be from SLC-40, Space Force Base in Cape Canaveral. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Transporter 6 mission, a rideshare flight to the sun-synchronous orbit with numerous small microsatellites and nanosatellites for commercial government customers. The Falcon first stage booster will return to landing zone 1, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Then in January, I'll just read a few more of these. There's actually a lot of them coming up in January. We have, let's see here, OneWeb 16 launching sometime in January on a Falcon 9 SLC-40 Space Force in Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 40 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing and deploying a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. This will be the second launch of OneWeb satellites with SpaceX, and OneWeb 16 launched overall. The Falcon first stage booster will return to landing zone 1. I believe this is because the Soyuz ride went away with the problems in Russia. So what is competitive in this space? They have decided to go ahead and launch their satellites anyway. Let's see, we have Starlink 2-4 coming up, SLC-4E, Vandenberg. This will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. This will be a high inclination orbit, inclined 70 degrees to the equator. First stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, this is a good one. We have also in January coming up a Falcon Heavy launch. This is from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. The Falcon Heavy rocket will launch USSF-67 mission for the U.S. Space Force. The mission will second continuous broadcasting augmenting SATCOM or CBAS-2 military communications satellite and the long-duration propulsive ESPA-3A or LDPE-3A rideshare satellite hosting multiple experimental payloads. if I can find an interesting one here. There's a bunch of Starlink stuff going up. One that might be different. We have Falcon 9 Worldview Legion 1 and 2 that'll launch on SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The rocket will launch 2 Worldview Legion Earth observation satellites for Maxar technology. They plan to deploy Worldview Legion high-resolution remote sensing satellites into the mix of sun-synchronous and mid-inclination orbits of 3 SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. I'm going to end there. There is very, very busy stuff. Don't forget, the Starship is still to be determined. I don't think they have a launch date yet, but it's moved into 2022, so it's delayed from early 2022. So 2023, we got another. Been waiting around a year for this to happen, but maybe it will. Okay, Brenda, back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. I'll be presenting an article from ScienceDaily.com entitled "Astronomers Find That 2 Exoplanets May Be Mostly Water." By UDEM astronomers has found evidence that 2 exoplanets orbiting a red dwarf star are water worlds, planets where water makes up a large fraction of the volume. These worlds, located in a planetary system 218 light-years away in the constellation Lyra, are unlike any planets found in our solar system. The team, led by PhD student Caroline Piolette of the Trotter Institute for Research of Exoplanets, IREX, at the Université de Montréal, published a detailed study of a planetary system known as Kepler-138 in the journal Nature Astronomy Today. Piolette, who is part of Bjorn Benneke's research team, observed exoplanets Kepler-138c and 138d with NASA's Hubble and the retired Spitzer space telescopes, and discovered that the planets, which are about 1.5 times the size of the Earth, could be composed largely of water. These planets and a planetary companion close to the star, Kepler-138b, had been discovered previously by NASA's Kepler Space Telescope. Water wasn't directly detected, but by comparing the sizes and masses of planets to models, they conclude that a significant fraction of their volume, up to half of it, should be made of materials that are lighter than rock but heavier than hydrogen or helium, which constitute the bulk of gas giant planets like Jupiter. The most common of these candidates materials is water. We previously thought that planets that were a bit larger than Earth were big balls of metal and rock, like scaled-up versions of Earth, and that's why we call them super-Earths, explained Benneke. However, we now have shown that these 2 planets, Kepler-138c and d, are quite different in nature. A big fraction of their entire volume is likely composed of water. It is the first time we observed planets that can be confidently identified as water worlds, a type of planet that was theorized by astronomers to exist for a long time. We previously thought that planets that were a bit larger than Earth were big balls of metal and rock, like scaled-up versions of Earth, and that's why we call them super-Earths, explained Benneke. However, we now have shown that these 2 planets, Kepler-138c and d, are quite different in nature. A big fraction of their entire volume is likely composed of water. It's the first time we observed that can be confidently identified as water worlds. The type of planet it was there's a hiccup in this article. I thought, this sounds familiar. With volumes more than 3 times that of Earth and masses twice as big, planets C and D have much lower densities than Earth. This is surprising because most of the planets, just slightly bigger than Earth, that have been studied in detail so far, all seem to be rocky worlds like ours. The closest comparison to the two planets, say researchers, would be some of the icy moons in the outer solar system that are also largely composed of water surrounding a rocky core. Well, this article goes on and on and on, and I think we're really getting on time, so I'm going to cut it off there. So, do we have any more check-ins now?
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB 4MFI, Ted Dallas Lower.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
KUFWV4MFI, Ted, and KG5EIU, David. Welcome to the net. All right, this is WV50ZL. Next, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. KE5ICX. Tom, could you present this to us?
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. I don't have a lot, but I got a few. I've got the International Space Station coming up on December 18th. There are actually two passes, but the better one of the two is the minus 3.7 magnitude at 6:31 in the morning out of the west-southwest to reach its highest point at 6:34 a.m. at 54 degrees in the northwest, and it'll fall to 6:37 to the northeast. Then the following day, December 19th in the morning, minus 3.7 magnitude again at 5:45 time. This one comes out of shadow at 63 degrees, makes its highest point at 5:46 at the southeast, and it will fall at 5:49 to the northeast. That's it on the International Space Station. We have Tianfeng, which is the Chinese space station, just recently received the module. I believe it's exploration laboratory module, I should say. So it should be getting a little brighter. They show magnitudes of minus 2.2 on one particular one, which is on December 24th, Christmas Eve. And this one is at 6:43 a.m. out of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point almost overhead at 86 degrees at 6:46, then falls to the northeast-northeast at 6:50. We have another one on Christmas Day, December 25th, minus 1.3 magnitude, 5:47 a.m. out of the south. It'll reach its highest point at 47 degrees at 5:47, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 5:51. And then finally, this is my last one for tonight, December 26th, minus 1.8 magnitude, be 6:24 out of the west in the morning at 25 degrees, reach its highest point at 45 degrees at 6:25, and it'll fall to the northeast at 6:28. That's it, Brenda. That's all I thought. Just some meager offerings for this week. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Do you have any final check-ins? Okay, we're just about on time here to wrap this up. Tonight we had 23 hands participating on the air. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to wcfc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB50ZL, Brenda. I'll be closing the net at 10:24 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. But first, we've got a net right after this, the afterglow net. Tom, tell us what time to be back.
Well, Brenda, this one works out perfectly for afterglow, or for after Skynet. So we'll be back here at 10:30. 10:30. Year of Being Squared. Tonight's movie is A Christmas Carol. This is the one from 1984 with George C. Scott. See you then.
Okay, thank you. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. This is WB50ZL Claire.
RAI.
Normal state.
Well, I was wanting to ask a question because last night and tonight I saw what looked like a bright blue object up above in the sky, but I'm not sure what it was. So anyway, I thought maybe someone else may have an idea. It's like from my apartment looking out on my balcony towards Mesquite from here.
This is KF5JHA. What direction were you looking?
I would say I was looking like 45-degree angle, or toward towards Big Town from
I'm
Jim
completely
Miller
operational and all my circuits are
and
functioning
Samuel.
perfectly.
After Afterglow Movie Net.
The planet Jupiter is really bright, and that's toward the southern part of the sky. That's probably what you saw. KF5JHA.
Okay, thanks. KC5REI, I'll be clear.
Okay, well, I'm a minute late, but I'm back. Let's see here. Tonight, this is the Afterglow Movie Net. I'm KE5ICF, looking at control. I guess tonight, by the way, if anybody wants to be net control, by all means, give me a jingle. I'll be happy to turn it over to you. Tonight's movie, by popular demand, is yet another version of A Christmas Carol, this one from 1984. This one is actually maybe one of the most popular, if not the most popular, believe it or not. I think there was the one from 1939, I think, that was very, very popular. And this one kind of supplanted it because of the fact that it starred George C. Scott. Now, I will go into the plot. Everybody seems to know the plot. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the movie itself and how it was made. Production was filmed on location in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, I don't know where that is, in the English Midlands. It was originally aired on American television network CBS on December 17th, 84, and was released theatrically in Great Britain. The U.S. debut was sponsored by IBM, which purchased all the commercial spots for the 2-hour premiere. The film brought in 20.7 out of the 30 rating share, winning the time slot and ranking number 10 for the week. The film was marketed as the tagline, "A new, powerful presentation of the most loved ghost story of all time!" Exclamation point. Scott was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited Series or a Special for his portrayal of Scrooge. The movie has run in syndication on local American channels since 1984 and was released on VHF in 89, in VHS in 1989 in the UK, and on DVD in 1999. This is because Scott himself and later his estate through Baxter Healthcare, to whom Scott and family donated their copyright rights, owned the rights to this film. On December 25th, 2007, it returned to national television on AMC for the first time since its debut. The network continues to show it each December under license from the Scott Estate and 20th Century Studios, Walt Disney Television. The latter's distribution rights is the result of their owning the video rights. The 2009 Hallmark Channel also ran the movie soon after Thanksgiving. It remains one of the most beloved of the several adaptations of The Christmas Carol. The same year, the film was re-released on DVD by Fox with updated box art, but the same menu and features the previous DVD release. Fox released it on Blu-ray in December of 2010. Louis Banyard, writing for Salon.com, described the adaptation, a definitive version of the beloved literary classic, praising its fidelity to Dickens' original story, the strength of the supporting cast, and especially Scott's performance as Scrooge. want to run through the plot? Not really. Everybody knows the plot to this story. Your characters, George C. Scott as Ebenezer Scrooge, Mark Strickson as a young Ebenezer Scrooge, Frank Finley as Marley's ghost, Angela Pleasant as the spirit of Christmas past, Edward Woodward as spirit of Christmas present, Michael Carter as the spirit of Christmas future, my favorite, David Warner as Bob Cratchit, Susan York as Mrs. Cratchit, Anthony Walters as Timothy or Tiny Tim Cratchit, and then a whole list of other characters you wouldn't know, but you probably recognize from as colorful characters in the previous and post-production. By the way, a little bit of trivia. The tombstone that was shown in the graveyard scene was left there. It's still there. It says Ebenezer Scrooge on it in the churchyard of St. Chad's Church in Shrewsbury. All right, rather than reading all that stuff that I have no intention of reading because we all know the story, Ghost of Christmas Past, Ghost of Christmas Present, Ghost of Christmas Future, not to mention Jacob Marley's ghost, complete with all of his money pills hanging from his chain. We can go ahead and begin check-in. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take check-ins from everyone, and then I'll ask you, did you see this version of A Christmas Story? If you didn't, that's okay. Pick another, or the book, or whatever you want to do, and we'll talk about what you think of the story, maybe from a science fiction, or a fantasy, or from a historical standpoint. That'll be the check-ins. After that, we'll talk about the plot. What do you think about the plot? Secondly, we talk about the characterizations in this particular production, if you can. And then finally, if we have time, and we may, we'll go through special effects and all of that. Or anything you may have missed along the way. So, here we go. I'm going to take check-ins. Please come with your call signs phonetically. Your name. Did you see this version, the 1984 George C. Scott version of The Christmas Carol? If you want to give me your location, that's fine too. So let's get started.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving. Yes, I saw this.
Bravo to Whiskey, J, November. Yep, I saw it.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I did not see it, but I'm along for the ride.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto. Yes, I saw the movie.
All right, I'm sure others will check in. Let's see. We've got N5BB, Bill and Irving. Yeah, he saw this version. KG5BZWJ near Rutherford. He did see this version. NT5PM, Tony in Dallas. No, he did not see this fine production, but we may ask questions anyway. Next, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda DeSoto. Yes, she saw it. Are there additional check-ins? Please come now with your call sign name. Did you see the 1984 version of Christmas Carol?
Kilo India 5 Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise Arlington. Yes, I saw it.
Okay, we picked up one more. We got KF5KWG, that's Cruise in Arlington. He did see it. I'll go ahead and ask specifically on Echolink. There is one person there. If you'd like to check in who has not checked in, there's only one. Please come now and we'll put you on the list. Echolink only. Okay, no problem. We'll start out a little slow, I'm sure, and there's a few people over on the traffic net on 7-2, so I'm sure they will show up a little bit later. I guess we'll go in order. Seems fair. We'll start with Bill. Bill, what did you think about this particular production and the story? How did it unfold for you? I'm sure you've seen and probably even read the story at some point and seen multiple versions of this particular Christmas classic. So go ahead, Bill. Kick us off with whatever you got to say about, I don't know, plot.
Okay, Tom. This is Inside BB. Yes, I've seen multiple iterations of this, and I'm sure I've seen this over the one or more time over the years. And I resaw it today, and I thought, in general, this was a very good production. So, in other words, I give it a thumbs up. As far as the plot, it's the standard Dickens plot. It's always popular. This whole plot, this particular plot has always been popular. It always, quote, warms people's hearts, unquote. Of course, because it's a Christmas theme, it always, and the name of it's A Christmas Carol, it always shows up at this time of the year. And it's got a story in it that nobody can argue with the plot points. The supernatural things in it are not very objectionable, I would say. It's just some ghosts that are, helping push Ebenezer the right way. And I would give it a thumbs up. I guess that's all I have to say. I think it's going to be pretty short tonight. Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'm not sure either. It's one of these stories. We've all seen it a million times. I don't know. This is the first time I've seen this version myself, so I'm not sure how I'm going to add my own comments when it comes along, but let's see what happens. We've been surprised in the past, and that's it. It's gone, we thought we could end in about 10 minutes, ended up going over an hour and a half, sometimes almost 2, so who knows. Well, let's go on down to Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what'd you think about the plot, and how did it compare with George, I don't know, with well, I can't talk about cast, but how does it compare production-wise to the way it flows from other movies and the story itself? Jay, KG5BZW from KG5ICX.
Kilo 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Plot, follows. I mean, I almost feel like to really give it the analysis of the plot justice. You have to have seen the original, read the original weekly or whatever Charles Dickens wrote to get this whole thing together. I'm assuming it was a weekly. That's the way he did a lot of his things. But I don't know what to say. It's a fine telling of the story. I mean, I got a cactus just trying to get a little hyperactive right now. I thought the cat. Well, no, I'm getting ahead of myself with cast and stuff. And I had a few thoughts I had earlier when I was watching it, but I can't remember what they were. But more philosophical about the story itself, and how it compares cares to say like the Disney version, which they actually make the ending just maybe a little bit scarier, but I'm pretty sure that's not actually in the book as it was depicted, but then they use the visual medium for what visual mediums are good for. So, I mean, I always kind of like the Disney telling. And Disney telling's only an hour too, so it's like, let's get that going for. But this, I have to admit, it's, I don't know, because the way Bernita was depicted was just a little bit, I stretched my belief a little bit. At the end, I felt like they had to cut something out or something that it didn't quite die with me like some of the other versions have done. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I almost have to watch like the name of that Scrooge. I haven't seen that in forever. And there's another one. I don't even remember what the aspect or who was it or anything. I may be just thinking. I don't know. Say it's faithful to the original story, and I believe it. I think that if there's any problem is being faithful to it. A story that's written in, I guess, mid-18th to 19th century. They have different. People might have different feelings with regret to the threats, the guests, the ghosts foretold than somebody living in the 21st century or 20th century, even late 20th century as this was made. So I don't know. Overall, I generally love the Christmas Carol story in general as a kind of a moral tale. There's aspects to the tellings which are always arguable, though, which are kind of interesting, and I wish I'd really thought about more to discuss those aspects. Oh, now I'm not remembering. But, oh gosh, that's a whole nother topic about, living within, acknowledging the limited means that, I am not prepared at all. I'm trying to break into some sort of abstract philosophical discussion, and I'm just not ready for it. But other than that, but the thing is the abstract philosophical discussion is kind of what this thing attacks or is leaning into. So I'm not exactly happy with myself right now, but I'm just going to have to end with that. KQ5BCW back tonight.
All right, thank you, Jay, I think. Okay, well, collect your thoughts. We'll see what happens on the next round. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony, I know you did not see, maybe you have seen this particular production, or you saw the Reginald Owen version from 1938, or maybe you just read the book and skipped all the middle grounds and the dramatics and found the story much more engaging, or not. So what do you think? What does this story do for you since you're along for the ride? I assume you're sitting by your radio with the fireplace running, you have an ascot and a pipe, and you're enjoying Christmas carols playing in the background. So tell us, Tony, what do you think about the Christmas Carol in general, and do you have anything you would like to add to what you've already heard from KE5?
Oh, an ascot. Bah, humbug. No, what I've got is a chihuahua and a fleece blanket. Nope. I'm willing to give this production a try, although Dickens was paid by the word and he knew it. I kind of loathe Dickens. I know that at the time he was revolutionary and he made many contributions to culture, and he kind of convinced people to pay attention to one another in various important ways, and hey, you, look at these starving children. But he's so hard for modern audiences to swallow because he's just so wordy and he can't ever stop talking. I want to say on behalf of Aaron and I that we both look to Scrooged as our favorite Christmas Carol adaptation. We have not seen this movie. We might give it a try, although probably tomorrow. NT5TM.
Hey, thanks, Tony. I knew you'd have something to say about this. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, you and I watched it last night, and a few other folks. What did you think of A Christmas Carol with George C. Scott as Pat?
This is WB50ZL. Well, I loved it. Of course, he's such an incredible actor. Everything he does is just incredible. I was a little skeptical. I hadn't seen this before, and I've seen many other versions of this, which are all nice, but I thought, no, it's just another one. But I kind of thought this one stood apart. I thought it was really, really good, and I wouldn't even mind seeing it again. And it's amazing how the story we have told ourselves over and over and over and over can still reach out and hold our attention. But it's just a timeless story, and it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, which to me we watched every time we put up our Christmas tree growing up. You just have a tradition. So this movie is a good tradition around Christmas, obviously. Interesting. Most of these movies and plays stay pretty close to the book. I'm really kind of surprised nobody tries to be creative and change it up. But, well, I guess that's all I have to say about that. WV50ZL, back to net.
Man, that was quick. Okay, well, let me move on to Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what did you think about this particular version of the Christmas Carol from KE5I6?
KI5KWG. I thought a lot about it. I actually took a lot of notes. I won't bore you. First thing I'll start off with is about midway through, I stopped and went and looked up the Wikipedia article, which is the same as the IMDb usually, and saw that this has become the classic and considered the best film version of this Dickens story. Well, it was the fourth one I think I'd seen filmed, and I read the original, and I was sucked in and blown away. I thought, definitely, yeah, this is the best one. So if you hadn't seen it, I thought this was excellent. As for plot, so that's a yes, I liked it. As for the plot, it's a secular story. It really isn't a Christmas story. And I'll try not to climb into a pulpit here, but it's a moral story, but there's no Linus theme talking about the incarnation, the birth of Christ. The church is represented by a distant dome on the horizon throughout the film, and passing mention of the tragic character having been late to getting home because he lingered to thank the priest for a good sermon. But that's it. God is very, very distant in the story, and in fact, the redemption is done by Scrooge himself. And look, we find the notes I wrote. I said, "Oh, great! I can redeem my soul and even save innocents like Tiny Tim if only I'm rich enough to lavish my wealth on my friends, my family, and strangers. Yeah, I'll get right on that." So, see, I just saw that as it's a very shallow sort of moral story, and you got to wonder about the people under the bridge when it's over with, and so it's unsatisfying as a Christmas story. As a moral story, it's fun. And so I really enjoyed this version of telling that story. I'll put it that way. But as for the plot and the intent of the author, I'm kind of lukewarm at best. That's what I've got on plot. KI5 KWG. Back to Nat.
Very good. Thank you, Cruz. You kind of gave me a little clue to something that I was questioning, and then I thought, well, maybe I just expand this out on some of the things that you said. But first, before we do that, I'm going to ask for additional check-ins. Would you like to join us this evening? Maybe you came off of the graphic net and you're here now. We are talking about the 1984 version of A Christmas Carol with George C. Scott as Ebenezer Scrooge. So if you'd like to check in, maybe you've seen this version, maybe you haven't, that's okay. If you have, I need to know. If you haven't, that's okay too. We'll ask you about the story itself, because it's exactly what Cruz did, talk about the story. So, if you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see this version of A Christmas Carol, 1984 with George C. Scott?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sir Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
Okay, I've got KB9SOK, that's Sean in Fort Worth. He's affirmative, he did see it. Was there anyone else? I heard the carrier break there for a second. If anybody else would like to join us, come now. I do believe somebody is there. You have no audio. You have the carrier, and you are able to make the repeater, but there's no audio. Let me give you an extra opportunity there. Just see if you can do it. Just check your mic or something. But you've got a good signal, but no audio. Try one more time. Okay, well, we'll come back to, we'll have another round here in a little bit. KB9SOK, Sean, you saw it. What did you think about the plot?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I pretty well agree with everybody else. This is obviously, I do think it is one of the better versions of it. Obviously I think Cruz said there were 4 versions up to this point. And I was trying to remember, there was another version they used to run all the time on TV too, in about that time frame here. They showed this one or the other one, and I can't remember who the main person was in the other one. But I have seen this version. This is probably about the 3rd time I've seen this version. and it is probably one of the better ones. Obviously, we've seen this story somewhat twisted and used in other things. There's even, I believe, a Star Trek Next Generation story where they did, not necessarily Christmas, but it was, basically seeing their past, current, and future, and kind of playing off of that and changing their decision when they returned back to the present of what they wanted to do. And in fact, there may have been 2 episodes where they kind of followed that theme. So yeah, this concept's been kind of stolen in other shows and reused. As I said, we've seen this a million times. Even though I enjoyed this version and overall enjoyed the movie, I was somewhat not super excited to watch it again just because I've seen this story so many times. But it was well done. I agreed. I enjoyed the Scrooged version with Bill Murray. That obviously was meant to be more of a comedy, but still, it was at least a fun, different take on it. But as Cruz said, I kind of had the same feeling at the end about the whole. It really is a moral story, and I kind of thought the same thing. But then I was somewhat disappointed at the end. In reality, when you do look at the story, because it ends up being all about money, and that's not. Most 3/4 of this movie was all about just spending time with the people that you care about. And even though they did show a little bit of the one boss having the Christmas party and spend a little bit of money, just to bring some joy, and I get that, but yeah, it would have been nice that, even though they did say at the end that, Ebenezer Scrooge did, spend Christmases and got to be well known around the time afterwards, still, it does seem like, they kind of focused a lot there on the money right at the end, even though they, obviously did earlier too about, I realized they were trying to show just how tight he was and didn't want to spend money on nothing, but yeah, obviously that was, kind of a focus, but in reality, it is more of a moral thing, and then some of the, like even Star Trek episodes kind of turned into focus more on the moral side of it than the money side, but all in all, it was good. I enjoyed it. I do give it a thumbs up and would recommend it, but yeah, it's kind of the same thing we've seen many times, so I won't keep lingering. So yeah, back to the net, KB9SOK.
All right, that's the spirit. Now we got something to glob on to. Thank you, Sean, and thank you for your comments on that. Anyone else want to check in before I give my 1 cent worth?
W5BLT, Bill, Garland.
Bill, welcome back. W5BLT. Bill, did you see this version, the 1984 version with George C. Scott? And if you did, go ahead with your comments. If you didn't, go ahead with your comments anyway.
Okay, hopefully I'm making the repeater. I'm on the handheld HT, so sometimes that's always a tough swing here from Garland. I did see this movie, and I don't know how I missed this, because my dad let me watch Patton and anything else with George C. Scott in it, and I don't know how I missed this one. Traditionally, I've always watched the older one, and as a kid, I remember listening to the radio show at Christmas Eve while I was trying to fall asleep waiting for Santa. And I love this version. I love the plot. Of course, the plot is always it's the same, but I wasn't sure if they were going to be true to the book, and it looks like they were. I did actually also read the book today. Interesting, there's 2 versions. There's one that's about maybe an hour and a half to read, or one that Charles Dickens would do when he was reading the story to people, and then of course the longer version, which he had cut down when he did the oral reading. So this movie, I think, stayed true to the book, which is sometimes what I was afraid sometimes Hollywood doesn't always do. And I love the plot, and I thought the actors did a great job. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but yeah, I love this movie. W5BLT, I'll try to save for the next round.
right, thank you, Bill. You are holding the repeater, but just barely. You are readable. I have a feeling that if you have a long dissertation, the battery may give out or something, but you're still there, but I'm just giving you fair warning on the next round. All right, I'm not going to belabor it any longer. We can get other check-ins a little later. I was thinking, and then as Cruz made his comment, and then, of course, and he elaborated in an area I was kind of interested about, and that is in the plot, and this can be of any of the stories. I don't recall if I read this story. I was probably in junior high school. That's how long ago it was, so I can't remember the particulars about it. But I do find some interesting things that come out of it, and it did come out of this narration when I was listening to Jacob Marley and his comments to Scrooge when they first meet. They were good friends, business partners, and a good man of some years that they worked together and worked well together. And he's roaming the world in purgatory, neither in heaven nor hell, carrying his greed with him. Yet he does mention somewhere at the beginning of his oratory that this is not right, and I wasn't. Somehow or another, I thought he said he was a man who was generous, or maybe should have been, I'm not sure. But in any case, he's the guy that ends up warning Scrooge. How does he do that? Does he run around and tell other people like this? Is it just Scrooge? Is he waiting for the last 5 or 6 years to do this? What's he do in the meantime? Does he go to, I don't know, a retirement home or something and play bocce ball or something? I don't know. I'm confused by that one. But somehow or another, he then also picks up, goes to Christmas past, present, and future, tells them when they're going to show up except for the Mercurial one, which is what, future? I would think that it'd be the Christmas present, but first 1 and 2 a.m. Oh, the third one shows up when he feels like it. That's the Mercurial. So my question then becomes on this, what do these ghosts do the rest of the time? Are they visiting other people like Scrooge, or are they just there fabricated for Scrooge only? They seem to have a storyline that they can give out, and testimonials that would suggest that they do research on different individuals that have been ratted on by close family members or business associates from the past that decide they want to do somebody in, either to get them out of their greedy and self-centeredness, or something else. But do they do this all the time? Is it like only on Christmas this occurs? Could it be any other time of the year? Could it be on the 4th of July? Could we talk about something horrible that happened on the 4th of July, like a fireworks explosion, and how it ruined somebody's life because you forgot to, make sure the fuse was right? I don't know. These are things that I want to know. Where do these ghosts come from? Is there some place that who sends them out? And who keeps you in purgatory? I know it could be God, but that varies from religion to religion and even different sects. So I'm not sure. So my question in all of this is, what's the motivation for the ghosts in all of this? Do they get paid? Do they get time and a half or double time on during a holiday? Do they only work holidays like Santa Claus? Do they compete for the same pay because Santa Claus works on the same day too? These are questions I need answers to. And since this group is so good at it, I think they should be able to answer those questions. Overall, I thought the movie itself was quite entertaining, and it does seem faithful to the book that I read 1,000 years ago. And I think they took some pretty good time at moving between the various scenes and the different families and all of that. I'll talk about special effects and photography and all that when the time comes, and maybe a little more about the characters in the next round. Anyone else want to join us? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see the 1984 version of A Christmas Carol? Hearing none, we'll go to round two. Round two is characterization. So what do you think about the characters from A Christmas Carol? We'll start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, your thoughts? What'd you like? Also, you can talk about any of the actors. Of course, we got a star-studded cast apparently here. So go ahead with your comments, Bill, from KE.
Thanks, Tom. This is N5BB. Man, you were starting to sound like Scrooge in that last comment, Tom. What is the motivation for the ghost? I don't know. Okay, we'll do characterization. We'll characterize the ghosts, I guess. Let me preface this by saying this story was written by Charles Dickens a long time ago. This is in the early 1800s, or the middle 1800s, really. This is, before the U.S. Civil War by quite a bit. This story was first published 179 years ago, this coming Monday. So in 2 days, this story will have been published 179 years ago. Yeah, that's pretty amazing for something to be published back then, and this whole story be very popular here in 2022, 179 years later. That's really pretty interesting if you think about it. And this is just one of the main stories this time of the year, these holiday stories. And as is commented earlier, it's not strictly a Christmas story per se, There's no, official kind of religion in it. There's a lot of moral sentiments, There's a lot of moral things. It's a morality tale. But there's nothing in here. In this actual production of the movie, you hear some people singing Christmas carols, but that's about it. As far as anything specifically that refers to a Christmas per se, other than it's a holiday where people go and with family and give gifts to others, which again is more of a that's not really specifically religious either, if you think about it. Anyway, the ghosts themselves, if Tom is worried about them, is simply a technique to bring up. It's a writer's technique to bring up the topic. Okay, that's a plot device, Tom. And it's not expanded upon these details that Tom asked about because it's not important. It doesn't make any difference. That's like asking if a spacesuit, a spaceship arrives, asking what company made the spacecraft, How many workers did it take? Who cares? Everybody kind of knows what a ghost is, even now, in popular imagination. And back then, everybody knew what a ghost was, so they didn't have to explain that stuff. It wasn't needed. So that was unnecessary fluff that wasn't really discussed. You're supposed to just take them for granted. They are what they are. Don't worry about it. Okay, now let's look at the human characters. I thought Ebenezer Scrooge was characterized and played very well by George C. Scott. I think he did an extremely good job on this. It suits, as far as casting, he's perfect casting for this. I just can't imagine anybody that's really any better than George C. Scott to play this. I think he did a great job with it, and I think he was directed well. The other characters were very believable to me also. Everything from Tiny Tim and Bob Craddock and everybody else, I thought they were good. So I was happy with all of that. So I like the characterizations. I like the characters. The story is still popular because it hits a nerve. And these characters hit a nerve. And there doesn't need to be any more detailed backstory. This is plenty. End of my comments in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I have comments about your comments, but I'm waiting to the end. Next up is Jay, KG5WJ. What did you think about characterizations in A Christmas Carol from 1984?
This is KG5BCW. Let's see. Before I forget, I want to answer one of the, well, it's not really answer because it's not really an answer, but I think it's a hint. Remember, the Ghost of Christmas Present said he had over 1,800 brothers. So, kind of a hint that there might be a Christmas present once per year, possibly, given the fact that this, man, this thing was great and everything. But, anyway, whatever. You have to kind of look at this as a moral story because of the, it's like supposed to look at. I see the story as we're supposed to look at our improve upon that. And so it's like, how did Marley get, why did Ebenezer get the redemption arc and Marley did, how does that Marley, ghost, how did he get involved? Yeah. But it was, another bit was that it was like, he was obligated to do this for Scrooge. Then literally said in this film, he was, I forget the exact phrasing, but it was under some obligation, and so he did it, and blah, blah, blah. Hold on, let me read. Right, I'm back. Let's see. I can't really say anything about the characters themselves or George C. Scott's rendition. Again, I thought it just got weaker at the end, and I really wish I understood why I feel that way about. I'm wondering if they're just kind of out of things. I don't know. Because, especially the future, every other rendition of this story, they make the future look much, much darker. I mean, it just, it is kind of hard to believe Ebenezer didn't really see, this is not me, this can't be. I mean, I understand, they wouldn't use the term cognitive dissonance back then because of what that term doesn't exist, but the way he acted is like, really? I don't know. It was a little hard to believe. I've lost like the family members of Fred and of course his partner, but his employee Bob Cratchit. I thought that their very good. And all the more minor characters, of course. I guess Sally is kind of a minor character, but not really, because a major focus of a plot point, and but I mean the kid did what was needed, so really complain. Got nothing else. KG5 BDW, back to that.
Okay, thank you, Jay. And now moving to Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what do you think, by all means, expand on the ghost phenomenon here? I'm very concerned about their full motivation and the characterization. Maybe you can explain it to me. Otherwise, what do you think of the characters of Charles Dickens' story from KE5ICS?
Oh, Tom, there is no Dana. There is only Zool. Oh, wait, but that's the truth about ghosts. We have to say something about Dickens' ghosts. Dickens was paid by the word and knew it, so he took the opportunity in this novel to go off on a little tangent about why is it that, deader than a doornail? Surely a coffin nail would be the deadest kind of nail. Really, I might give this movie a chance, but, Dickens is so hard. NT5TM, back to net.
Man, not a fan, huh? Okay, well, let's move on then. Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, your comments on characterization, particularly from this film, and maybe the acting as well, from KE5ICS.
This is WB5OZL. Well, you can't fault the acting. It was superb. Everybody was just perfect in it, I think. Although the ghost, let's see, which one? Oh, I thought he was a little creepy, to be honest. And to me, he was a little different from the way that ghost is usually portrayed. It's interesting, how would you like it if your name became a definition? A Scrooge is a miserly person, but that's because Ebenezer Scrooge fit that definition before. I'm pretty sure before that, Scrooge was just a name, and it's how fitting that Dickens would have chosen a word that just sounds right. And even if you didn't know what a Scrooge was, it's just, the name resonates that way. Really, I think they captured the spirit of all the characters pretty well. And I thought it was a beautiful movie, just lush. The costumes and furniture and, everything about it was, well, I guess I'm digressing, but it just, it just seemed perfect. The way that everything was, the way everybody was portrayed. I'd love to see Patrick Stewart in this. I bet he's just every bit as good as George C. Scott is. Well, I don't want to belabor it. That's say about that. WB5OZL.
right, thank you, Brenda. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz is armed with notes. So unleash the hounds, Cruz. Tell us what you thought of characterization from KE5ITX.
KI5KWG. I think we need to have a movie on ghosts for you, Tom, so that we can all talk about that. Sometime I'll tell you, maybe I should get on just next time I hear you on the repeater, not during a net, I'll tell you a story about some friends of mine and their ghosts. But anyway, George C. Scott, some genius, saw George C. Scott play General Buck, was it Turgidson, in Doctor Strangelove. Funny, comical character. And he looked at that and he said, well, there's our Patton. I just can't imagine that. But it happened, apparently. And likewise, somebody saw George C. Scott playing George S. Patton and said, there's our Scrooge. And I just can't fathom that. But it happened. He was so good in all three very different characters. And so, we've often said, so-and-so played himself, basically. And so I was very, very impressed with George C. Scott. He owned the character. He was Scrooge. He's my favorite Scrooge. It was excellent. He drew me in. And something that I didn't get from reading the story, and something I haven't gotten from any of the others, is we had two tragic, suffering heroes in this story. And I never noticed it before. Scrooge was one. Tiny Tim, of course, was the other. And but all of our sympathy is in with Tiny Tim, except in this version of it, where I really felt sympathy for Scrooge as a young boy and hated by his father, and then losing his sister, and then losing the love of his life, and that's why he turned inward as he did. It was very easy to actually like him, I thought. Maybe I'm strange on that. So George C. Scott stole the show. He really made it. It was excellent. I think all the other actors and actresses, if you will, did very, very well. I think there was a lot of obvious stage emoting taking place by some of the characters, and some seemed more comfortable in front of the camera. And that was about the only thing I really noticed about their characterizations. They were all... My radio telling me to reset. Pardon me, I don't usually hold forth so long. And I think I'm done anyway. So this is KI5KWG, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Bruce. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization, the acting, that jazz, for A Christmas Carol with George C. Scott. From KE5ITX, go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I actually found your comments there funny, Tom, at the end about the what do these people do? That is kind of funny. But we can also look at this too, that maybe Scrooge is right. Maybe these people really didn't happen. Maybe it was all in his mind. Maybe he did have a bad acid trip or something. Who knows? So maybe it was just all in his head. But yeah, characters. No, it was a really good cast. I wanted to give them that. It was very well cast, very well acted. As everyone says, obviously George C. Scott did a fantastic job. But I think they all actually did a really good job. I think even down to some of the small characters, I think it's very well done. And won't dive too deep into them because everybody kind of already has. But one thing I kind of forgot about the plot was, one thing I thought was odd was there at the end, obviously he sees where he dies within, a year or two of after that Christmas. And the part that doesn't make any sense is well, not that there's just one, but why did he magically get to live a long life just because he was nicer? Was they trying to say that if you're a nice person, you live longer? I guess I sort of wish it was that way, but I don't think it works that way. So that was a little bit confusing because he never explained, what actually causes the death. So you really don't know why he would magically live longer, just because he was willing to, be a nicer guy. So yeah, I thought that was a little odd, and I do agree. It was a little wordy. So I do got to agree with that. That might be the one. There was a couple times I thought, okay, that was a little overdone, but all in all, decent, good acting, good actors. So yeah, enjoyed it. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Very good. Thanks, Sean. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, what'd you think of the acting, characterization, that jazz from KE5ITX?
Let's see if I can talk and get the repeater. I loved the characters. I thought George C. Scott did a great Scrooge, and actually I think has become my favorite out of all the incarnations that I've watched or reenactments that I've watched. Like I said, I probably remember the first time I listened to this on the radio at a kid of 4, and somehow I missed this, and I thought he played the part well. The supporting characters I thought were very good, and yeah, it was a little wordy maybe at times, but I kind of liked the language in it. I thought it was again, I came into it thinking that it wasn't going to be true with the book, and deviate from that, and maybe the characters wouldn't mirror what I remember from the book and the other shows, but I thought he did an even better job. So this probably ranks as my favorite version. And I'll say this because I don't know how long I'll be on here trying to get Echolink to work. One of the things that Dickens wanted to do is he read articles about kids being abused and having to work and being taken advantage of, so he wanted to strike a blow against that, and it inspired him to write that. And interestingly enough, he I think paid for this, and they did illustrations in the book, and it didn't maybe fare as well profitability-wise, but it did kind of bring him back on the map as an author. And so I thought these characters really kind of force us on our mode in life. And so anyway, I could go on about this. This was one of my favorite Christmas tales. WBLT, I'll enjoy listening to everybody tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. And no, you don't have to be quiet. That's why we do this in the middle of the night. You don't have to be quiet. You can say whatever you want because we're all sitting here awake, waiting for 1 o'clock to come, and the ghost of Christmas tomorrow shows up, which is appropriate because it'd be like the day after. What's the ghost of Christmas past? Wouldn't you think it'd show up like the day before? I don't know. At any rate, okay, I do see Anthony, KG5JPU. He's been trying to get his Echolink to work, and he was on last week when he was talking about our other crowd. Anthony, KG5JPU, are you out there? You can test your Echolink, or if you're on the radio, then tap that transmit button. Otherwise, if you fell asleep due to boredom or confusion, you don't have to do anything. But if you're there, come on out from KE5ITS. think he may have fallen asleep or something. I've actually fallen asleep in my own net, so it's entirely possible. I remember one time we were talking, and I was very tired. In fact, to do this net, I took a 2-hour nap this afternoon, or this evening, actually. And that's the only way I make it. If I miss my nap, forget it. All bets are off. So let me see. Anyone else out there wants to check in? Please come now with your call sign name. Did you see A Christmas Carol? This version is from the 1984 George C. Scott version, but you can check in with any version. Please come now with your call.
November 5, India, Mike, Sierra, JJ in Carrollton. Yes, I have seen this, but it's been a while, and I've seen several of the others. And I do have a answer to one of Bill's comments, if I may. Send 5 IMS.
Okay, I think we had the mystery person out there with no audio. He or she tried to check in, but I'll go ahead and take JJ, N5IMS. Go ahead with your comments from KE5ICX.
Well, like I said, it's been a while since I've seen any of these, but I have enjoyed, and I do think this is one of the better ones and stuff. But Bill had said, who but George C. Scott could do a good Scrooge? And my answer to that is just to bring up conversation and discussion is perhaps Scrooge McDuck or McDuck. His version was aimed at a different audience, the younger set, and it was not quite as wordy, should I say, as this one, because it was shorter time frame and not quite so highbrow, so because of the audience that they were going to. So perhaps McDuck may have done a sufficiently good job as well. N5 IMS, back to net.
All right, well, yes, and that was going to be one of my comments along the way, and you segued into what I was going to mention. Is, all right, who has played Scrooge in the past? Well, I did a little look up here. We have Lionel Barrymore, Ralph Richardson, Frederick March, swashbuckling Basil Rathbone, and Shakespearean veterans like Derek Jacobi, Simon Callow, and Michael Fordern also did it. Even James Earl Jones took a shot at it. And a gender version with Cicely Tyson, Vanessa Williams, Susan Lucci. I mean, everybody's done it. Don't forget Vic Damone and Buddy Hackett. They've all played Scrooge, not to mention Mr. Magoo. Yes, Mr. Magoo. Now, with that kind of star power going the complete gamut, that takes this very old 170-something plus years, as Tony says, and makes you realize, A, it's in public domain, nobody's going to sue you. B, you can make anything you want out of this story and call it your own and get away with it. And C, if you do a version that is true to form and is 170-something plus years old, is anybody going to watch it? And I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. It does seem interesting. So there have been ensemble casts and all of that. I don't know. What was the 51 version? That's pretty good. I haven't seen that in like 20 years. I like that. I think it was 51. And wasn't as spooky to me. I don't know if that worked as well. I think George C. Scott did a wonderful job. I love David Warner. Just he can read the phone book and I'd be happy. So I enjoyed his character. Everyone else played it well and adequately, and many of them British actors. This was British production, so they all do really great because they got that accent thing going on. So you take what they say more seriously, I think, than Americans. So, let's see. What was I... Oh, I was going to mention something. So, just to continue my story on ghosts, maybe he should have been visited by the ghost of unclean houses. That would have been good, because looking at that place, it's never been clean. And he didn't do it himself. Or, how about the ghost of boring soups? What the heck was he eating? Maybe that was the stuff that affected him. I don't know. Tony did mention victim, or somebody mentioned victim. Oh, I think it was Cruz mentioned he's a sympathetic character, victim of circumstance. Yes, we got to actually see that. I think there's a more hard-edged version. These are Scrooge in these earlier stories and examples. And so does he gets to be villain to hero, practically overnight. One story isn't satisfying unless somebody who starts out that way end up as a storytelling, but it is so such a turnaround. It makes you really wonder, does that really happen? Sort of like the Star Trek episodes where they turn the entire culture around and then they leave, and the people that was enslaving the population, they just go, well, you know what? That Captain Kirk was right. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. They're going to re-enslave them. So what's going to happen with Scrooge? Will he go back to the way he was? Well, we know there's a trap door there. He'll die. So, no, he can't do that. So now he's coerced. To stay alive, I've got to be nice. Who's going to do that? Anybody who wants to stay alive? Maybe him. The other part of it is, and I was wondering too, from I wonder why. Do you ever wonder why? I wonder why. Well, the one thing I wonder is it a dream? He says, were you a soup, a piece of morsel of food that did not digest well or something like that? Still could have been that. There was no evidence that any of the spirits were there, the ghosts. There was no way to know, and it continued on exactly that morning. He wasn't tired. He went out. He seemed perfectly fine, perfectly rested for an entire movie that he saw in his own dream, or actually experienced. So apparently he's got pretty good, demeanor and staying power. The first thing I would have done was, after I got the turkey in the window, I'd say, I'm going over to Cratchit, Texas, and say, do you have someplace I can lay down for a couple hours? I'll be fine after that. Because that's what I would do if I were Scrooge. Oh, I don't know. That was it. But I would agree with everyone else. The cast was nice, the way they framed out each of the scenes and the actors interacting like they're supposed to. That's why they're called actors. But doing it in a way that was engaging, I thought was fine. Going back to maybe some of the structure of the story, was well balanced between the various scenes. We didn't actually end up with a ton of Scrooge, although his character was the main character, of course. We got to the other families that we could kind of hone in on a little bit and get the feeling for it. And I thought it was interesting. I think it was Cruz who said Tiny Tim was not the sympathetic character of Scrooge. That was a great insight. You're absolutely right. At least in my estimation, that's who we were focusing on more than anything else. And it made his redemption even that more important, I think. It made the ending a little more satisfying, although I still find it, as I just mentioned, a little difficult to believe, but, you gotta have a happy ending some way. Who wants to see everybody die at the end, It's not opera, after all. Okay, well, we are. What are we at? 11:44, so we got enough time to go another round if we want, and if you don't, that's fine too. We'll go to the top. This round is kind of a free-for-all, whatever you want, including special effects, music, any of that jazz. I've got some notes on that one, so I'll have something to contribute. I'll start with Bill. N5BB. You got anything on those topics or anything you want to rehash and further define from KE5ICF?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Since you brought it up earlier, I want to go a little bit more into the ghosts. So I'm reading from some kind of blog in the UK, or a website talking about the ghosts in a Christmas Carol. So let me just read this, quote this real quickly. It's not too long. The ghosts in A Christmas Carol are about turns comic, grotesque, and allegorical. Professor John Mullen, he's the guy that writes this next paragraph, reflects on their essential role in developing the novel's meaning and structure. There have been ghosts in literature before the Victorians, but the ghost story as a distinct popular genre was the invention of the Victorians. Charles Dickens was hugely influential in establishing the genre's popularity, not only as a writer, but also as an editor. His journals, Household Words and All the Year Round, specialized in ghost stories, and other contemporary journals followed. Dickens' close friend and biographer, John Forster, said that the novelist had a hankering after ghosts. Not that Dickens exactly believed in ghosts, but he was intrigued by our belief in them. In A Christmas Carol from 1843, the first of his ghost stories, he harnesses that belief by making the supernatural a natural extension of the real world of Scrooge and his victims. This is a long way from the specters of earlier Gothic fiction. Anyway, this goes on for several paragraphs, and I'm not going to say any more from that. But I thought that was just an interesting description there about Charles Dickens really being influential in ghost literature, not just because of his writing, but his editing of journals that talked about ghosts, specialized in ghost stories. So I thought that was an interesting touch. I thought the production values of this were just fine. I thought the version I saw was a very clean-looking thing. It was a little dark, but of course a lot of these kind of dark stories are kind of photographed dark because it occurred at night. Most of it occurred at night, and yeah, they kind of make it dark. I thought the production values were enjoyable. I thought the little bit of the special effects were fine. I didn't have any problems with them. I thought they were okay. I thought what was interesting was the kids that were under the ghost's robe. By the way, that directly in the original story. There's actually a drawing that was in the original published stories showing those little, starving kids that were revealed when the ghost opened up his robe, his clothing. So that's right from the original right there, and I thought that was a pretty striking thing in the middle of it was those little starving kids there. And I guess that's all I got for now. N5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thanks for those comments. That is interesting. A plot device that helps forward the story and create. Actually, I think it can shorthand a lot of things that way too. I'll make comments about that in a little bit. Next up, KG5BZWJ. Parting comments. What do you got?
WB5BCW. Yeah, I was thinking about that while watching, not that in particular, but Ghosts and the story, and in particular the future ghost being, he literally calls it a specter, and that ghost is less human than the other two, but they're all, let's face it, they're all a little creepy. Because they're supposed to be creepy because they're ghosts. I mean, they show up and magically the world does not obey the rules it normally does. So yeah, of course. But yeah. In fact, I really wish I knew a little bit more about the story. I'm not going to read to figure it out. I agree with Tony on this. Yeah. But I may try to see if anybody's actually done the research, so I don't have to do it, about like the depictions, like the future ghost versus or things. I am curious how the sheet-covered person kind of thing, if that's or cloak. I guess it's supposed to be more of a cloak or something. I don't know what it is. The sheet thing is just what people would use as costumes, I guess. And you know, that lasts a long time. Anyway, I don't know if I got anything else to say. There's things to be said about, you know, the setting and whatnot. I was never taken out of the setting. They seem to do a pretty good job of making wherever they're set look like they were the right time frame. Grant, I'm sure if you search, there probably is somebody maybe wearing a watch or something, somewhere or something. They have a pocket watch or whatever they may have had back then. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm rambling too long. There's other people. KG5BCW, back to that.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Tony, MC5TM, any parting comments? KE5ITX. I think he's been sent to bed. Next, WV50ZL, Brenda, your parting comments.
This is WB50ZL. I don't know. I feel like we're having a hard time generating a whole lot of passion for this compared to some other movies we've seen. It was a really sweet movie, very, very nicely done, and there's just nothing controversial here that I could think of. It gets the point across, and it's entertaining, and the acting is wonderful, and all the costumes and everything. Well, I guess that's all I have to say. WB50ZL.
Well, that's okay, Brenda. I fully understand. Okay, next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, parting comments, anything you want to refresh, now's the time. From KE5I.
KI5KWG. Now I want to swap ghost stories. No, I mentioned, or rather I notated, two scenes that struck me. I mentioned one already, and that was the distant St. Paul's, I think it is, in London. The dome of that showing up in, when the street scenes and always in such a distance, which I thought was probably trying to make that point, and I may be wrong. And the other memorable, I guess, special effects scene, just that I liked it. I thought it was clever writing, because I think it was in the story, and well done, and was a snuffing out of the first ghost, where he's had enough, and he's using a giant candle snuffer to snuff out the light of that particular spirit. I thought that was intriguing and kind of fun to watch. I think that's all I've got on this. Enjoyed it. KI5, KWG, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Cruz. Thanks for your comments this evening. Very, very interesting. Next is KB9SOK. Sean, your final comments. See anything we've talked about before, or if you want to talk about special effects or something we haven't covered, now's the time. This is it from KE5I6.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I think things are pretty well covered. You know, the production values were decent for the 80s. The sound obviously played a huge part in this film to try to portray the ghosts and the only negative I had, I think, with the whole, as far as the audio, was just when we had the ghost of the future, the one that didn't talk, and every time that he was supposed to talk or point his finger, they had that screeching sound that actually about drove me nuts. I had to keep turning down the volume because it was just so loud and so over the talking volume that it was just annoying. That was the only sound I thought was bad. And yeah, your comment about the house being cleaned. The lady in the future that decided to sell his stuff, I think she was supposed to be the cleaning lady. But yeah, he probably should have fired her because it didn't look very good. That or only allowed her to work once a month or something. I don't know. But yeah, if you want to know more what happens with ghosts in the background, watch Beetlejuice. They kind of go through the whole process of when you die. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, the effects were just, they're on par. Every ghost story they like to start out there at the beginning with Marley, just being a faded picture of him in the background, and they either make it white or green, and they all do it. And I guess we all know what that means now. We've seen it so often. So they all just keep using that. So yeah, it's kind of a generic effect, but we've seen it a million times. But all in all, decent. So yeah, looking forward to next week. Back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. I'm going to get that here in a few minutes. Next, Bill, W5BLT. Bill, your final comments. Go ahead, tell us. Tell us what you really feel about this film from KE5ICX. Well, maybe we lost Bill. It is getting kind of late. Next up is N5IMS. JJ, you had comments? Do you have any final comments from KE5ICX?
Well, I was looking through, and I did notice that the movie was released in basically TV format instead of widescreen format, and seems like with the cast and the quality of the show in general, a widescreen version release would have been much better if they would have had it. I know there's been a few comments on Amazon about they were upset that they got the Blu-ray version, and it was not in widescreen format. It was in standard TV format, and they were quite upset. And I can understand that, because with the cast and being it's a fairly recent release, I would have expected it to be widescreen, but other than that, no comments at this point. It's N5 IMS. Back to net.
All right, thank you, JJ. And then Anthony, I didn't write down your call. I know it's KG5. No, I don't know. I'll figure it out. You said you were headed to the phone, so maybe the easiest thing to do is just see if there's any final check-ins, and then I can get his call sign surreptitiously, even though I already blew it. And if you like to make any final comments, please come in your call now.
Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I have a comment about another movie, but I just wanted to throw that in before we close yet.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. I have the call sign of Anthony.
Ooh, thank you. I recognize Gus and Bill. Cruz, what do you got?
Yeah, I always write down the attendees, and I have Kilo Golf 5, Juliet Bravo Uniform. Now, I may be mistaken, but that's what I have. Juliet Bravo Uniform.
You know what? I bet you I had it. I wrote it down. Oh, I got Juliet Papa uniform I've got. I just found it. I thought, you know what? I wrote it down last week, and I've got the list right here from the log from last week. So either way, we got him. We'll see if he comes back. So City, Kilo, Golf 5, Juliet, Bravo uniform, or what I just said, Juliet Papa uniform. Which one is it? I'm not sure. Anthony, if you're still there, come on by and tell us your, just spill the beans. What did you think about this story from KE5I6?
N5BB, a correction.
Yeah, Bill.
Anthony Paolucci, his name is Anthony, Paolucci, is Kilo Golf 5, Juliet Papa uniform. So you were correct, Tom. Kilo Golf 5, Juliet Papa uniform. He has interest in satellite things. He participates in many of the, especially the Arlington satellite nets on Wednesday evening, and he is a member of the National Space Society of North Texas, N5BB.
Okie dokie. Well, we'll see if he's there. We've been talking about him, but not let him in. So Anthony, out there, KG5JPU. Well, he may have fallen asleep. It wouldn't be the first time for me to do that. So let's go to our final comments. W5GUS, Scott, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. W5GUS here. Just finishing up supper and kitchen cleanup. So been listening. You guys have made me want to see this movie. I like George Scott. I bet it's a pretty good movie. But I wanted to include another actor that you left out, Tom, who played Scrooge, and quite well. In fact, he played all the parts of the whole play or the whole book. Jonathan Winter had a really good, it's audio version only. It wasn't a movie, it was just audio. And he did all the voices on all the characters and quite well. It's amazing how good after you listen to it for just a minute or two, you kind of, the theater of the mind, you see everything and just his voice, and he changes his voice. I don't know if y'all remember Jonathan Winters, but he could do all kind of different voices and things like that. He did a version of Christmas Carol, which is excellent. It's stellar. I highly recommend it to people that like the theater of the mind, especially. Jonathan Winter. That was my comment. Thanks, everyone, for an enjoyable movie critique. W5GUS.
Excellent. Thank you, Gus. And I'll take you up on that offer. I'll go look it up. I love Jonathan Winters, one of my favorite comedians of all time. So he's really talented as an actor as well. I'll check that out. Well, Bill, N5BB, you've got the final word. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is N5BB. This is kind of like a point of privilege or something. Just a comment about another movie that I saw last night. You may have seen ads for this on TV. The movie is Empire of Light. And it's a current movie, although it's a little hard to find. I had to go all the way up to a theater in Plano to see it last night. But it's a movie set in the early 1980s. It's directed by Sam Mendes, who's one of these wonder kid kind of directors out now that's doing some interesting things. He wrote it and he directed it. And the movie is, I guess part of it is a bit dark. It's definitely an adult. It's an adult-themed movie about adult topics. And the main characters in it is the actress Olivia Colman, who I've seen on some BBC things on TV. And I just really like her as an actress, and she does an excellent job in this movie. It's Olivia Colman. And there's some other interesting actors in it. It's a British production. And it won she won a Best Actress Drama a nomination in the Golden Globes Award for this. Anyway, so if you've heard of this movie or seen ads to it, if it's around, see it. As long as you're ready for an adult movie, not like there's a lot of nudity or things in it, but there's just adult themes, including depression and mental illness kind of themes. But it's at the end of it, it's kind of N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. I saw a little bit on it. I can't find any narrative on it or summary, but I'll check it out. You know me, I love movies anyway, so if it sounds like it's interesting, I'll find a way. All right, well, let's see here. We are at the end of the net. I am going to close it down. Next week's movie, another Christmas tale. This one you may all remember from 1993. It's called Life Pod. Why is it a Christmas movie? Because it takes place on Christmas Day in the future. That's why. Aliens and all. So that's next week. That'll be Christmas Eve. Come on by. We'll see how that all goes. If people are there or still awake. And I have a feeling a few of you may be here for Christmas Eve. So I don't have to do anything on Christmas Day. I don't have to, everything's closed. I don't have to go to the museum. Nothing. So we can stay up as long as we can stay awake. That'll be next week, Live Pod. I'll put all the information out. By the way, we do have a group that actually view the film together. It's a small group. Over on Facebook at 8 o'clock, and it's Afterglow Gang is the chat, or maybe I'll put something up so people can find it. It's been kind of an informal thing we've done for years, but if you're interested and you want to just chat about the film while we're watching it together, it's called Afterglow Gang, 2 words, Afterglow and Gang, in the chat. You'll find us there, and we'll let you in. 8 o'clock every Friday. That's it for me. You'll get all the updates tomorrow morning sometime, probably early, with the link to LifePod. I think the free link, of course. 7-3, everybody. If I don't get to talk to you on Christmas Eve, I will tell you now, have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you maybe the following week or New Year's or whatever, but at any rate, have a safe one, everybody. See you hopefully here next week. This is KE5ICX clear. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey, Tom, I don't believe I got the Afterglow link this week, so please make sure I'm still on your list for getting an email about the Afterglow link. I eventually found it by looking at the Afterglow Facebook page, but you know how much I hate Facebook. See you in 5BB Clear.
All right, Bill, I'll double check it. I put some notes on here so I don't forget tomorrow morning. Sometimes people drop off. Not often, but it does happen. I'll check it out. See you later. KE5ICX clear.
And I really thank you for cleaning up the the other email about the script. It's nice and clean this time, and nice and small, and didn't get blocked or anything, and it's beautiful. It's simple. It's beautiful. Lost in Space is on if you still want to later in 5BB Clear.